Good morning, welcome to a morning outlook. This is Kim speaking on Monday the 23rd of August. So starting off looking at news due out today. So we have the PMI data out today, European data. Well, we've got the French and German data, which is the most likely to move the markets there, 8:15, 8:30. The 9 o'clock figure doesn't tend to have quite so much impact on the markets or on the euro, etc. But then at 9:30 we've got the UK data, and at 2:45 we've got the US data. So I've got a bit of potential movers out there this morning. Now, of course, later this week we do have, in fact, let me just click on more here. The more important thing is the Jackson Hole Summit and the Fed meeting later in the week. We've got a few things coming out which can create some movement. Certainly this Jackson Hole symposium that occurs once a year in the US. They're a very important meeting, and they'll be looking for discussions of any tapering, maybe even starting this year. So that's really what's a key focus for this week ahead, aside of today's data. So today's data, a decent potential of some movement. Tomorrow, absolutely nothing. So and then of course it'll be looking at what lies ahead. Okay, so let's have a look at the technicals. We'll start off looking at the euro dollar. Morning ahead. We'll start off looking at the euro dollar. Euro dollar here, daily basis just running up. In fact, it might just run back out a little bit here. Weekly wise, last week, well, it ended up with a bit of a doji there. So it's come off. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the monthly. It's just to update. I thought it looked a bit odd. Here we go. I thought it looked a bit more of a downer last week. They're heading south towards the weekly 200 and 100. Still potential for a bit more downside there. Just run back into its daily 8 at the moment. Looking down the short time frames here, it's into its weekly pivot, and well, having had a decent turn on Friday there, we saw it later on, and we've seen it through into Sunday and into this morning. It has put a higher low in, but as I say, it's run into its weekly pivot there. Has an untouched daily pivot. We'll just have to watch how this whether this continues to the downside later, but to me it does look got potential to roll back a little bit more on the bigger time frame. Certainly shorter time frame here with this higher low in, it's a little bit less decisive. Okay, the pound daily wise, as I say, I'll just come back a step here because we're into some key moving averages. The weekly 50 was providing a bit of support on Friday there, and it's still holding up around that area at the moment, catching a bit of a bounce, and it hasn't quite bounced up to its weekly pivot quite yet. Continuation through this morning might just see that happening. A lot of these markets on this 4-hourly time frame, if you look at the RSI on the settings I use here, are very extreme. Now, not surprised to see some sort of bounce off that sort of extreme movement. Now again, we put the higher low in here, not quite so defined as the euro dollar there, as I said, and it's certainly short of the weekly pivot. With the pound, it also has it's touched its daily pivot there through the Asian sessions there, so the daily pivot ticked out of the way. It's just it had such a tight squeeze on Friday. The pivots are pinched together. It looks quite less likely that we'll see a move to walk back towards the weekly pivot that at the moment has got signs of a bit of a divergence into this R2 as well, which may just hold it fine, to hold it there. Now if we I mean, we're just running into 8 o'clock. If post 8 o'clock we start seeing these levels broken, well, there is the potential that it will push up towards that weekly, I guess, at some stage, but I don't know, at the moment I'm a bit wary on these. The yen it's been quite the softest over the day. Looking at the weeklies, it's not really showing us too much. I'll just come away from there. It's just showing us consolidation of the yen. We're sort of seeing risk back on to a degree with the pound and the euro there at the moment. Risk off, well, the risk, I say risk off here, but the risk, this is typical sort of yen selling when the risk does come back on. It's just that people closing out of their safety positions, and well, that's what we're seeing at the moment. And it looks like at the moment it could have some further upside, so it's sort of moving quite correlated with the pound and the euro at this stage. Just looking here, just not really showing too much. Very difficult one to trade intraday, the euro yen, because of some of the price action that we've seen. Australian dollar, well, just looking here, it's just come out a little bit weekly wise. Again, support wise into its weekly 100 at this stage. We, as I say, we are seeing a bit of a bounce this morning on a few of these markets, and sort of risk back on, as we've seen right the way through. And again, the Aussie, a bit like the pound there, short of its weekly pivot at this stage. It has put a higher low in as we run through here. You can see the higher lows being confirmed, but again, just slowing down where it is at the moment. Since it's R1 in this particular case here, just slowing down a little bit. In this case, also untouched, like the euro, untouched daily pivots there as well. So if it does start rolling over, it sort of becomes a target. Bigger picture, of course, these markets do look quite weak still, but there are, as I say, when you come to the 4 hourly, you see these higher lows coming through. It just gives the potential of something more, but as soon as you click into daily and weekly, they do look weak. Canadian dollar, well, we've seen a bit of a change around on the Canadian dollar here. Weekly wise, well, it just was pushing up towards its 200, 100, looked like that might have been on the cards, but when you look at the dailies here, it turned completely on Friday, and with the sort of buoyancy in oil at this stage today, with risk back on, and there's a little bit more belief in these markets, it's pulled back. Now the Canadian dollar's pulled all the way back to its weekly pivot, just having a little bounce here maybe at this stage. Be interesting to see if it can hold on. Again, inverted euro effectively, got the daily pivot untouched above there, so pretty similar. I was going to say lower highs. It probably has in the smaller time frames. It's almost straight down here since running up there on Friday morning. Pushing that high in there, but it's certainly looking like, well, at this stage could have further downside here, but we'll see how the support holds on this weekly pivot there. Okay, I mean, daily wise, it's starting to certainly look here. If it closed anything like this later today, I would still think it's got some more downside to be had. Right, taking gold, going from here, I will just look at the euro yen because it's a pair I trade quite a bit here. It's just come down the time frames here again, bouncing off its weekly 50. You see, well, I'm looking at the weeklies today. It's just so many points of support or resistance that are kicking through at this stage, and we are getting some sort of movement. We've had quite a strong movement up until now on all these markets, and it may be just a bit of a corrective move from where they are on the short term at least, and maybe even leading into Jackson Hole Summit. Right, higher lows again on this pairing here, and you can just really get pretty much a repeat of what we're seeing elsewhere in the markets, the euro dollar even. Right, okay, so let's have a quick look at commodities. Just have a look at oil, what's going on here, and you see the reversal kicking in so far this morning. Seeing quite a move, looking for the weekly pivot at this stage. It's pushed through its daily, so weekly pivot would be on it. There's no sign of any divergence on here. That weekly pivot comes in line with some prior highs there, so might just find a bit of resistance around that level, but as I say, it does look a bit more positive at this stage. Right, that's oil. Gold. So gold, well, if you look at it on the weeklies, if you like, it's consolidating in a bit of a phase here. It's consolidation sitting there on the dailies here. Maybe it's got another. Technically, I mean, fundamentally at this time of year, I'd expect it to roll back a little bit here, but it seems to be looking quite positive. Technically, well, it's bull flagging sort of price action sort of sitting there, but maybe if it can break through that 200, I'd be a bit more bullish on gold at the moment. But otherwise, it's just consolidating. It's probably taking people out left, right, and centre each way as it snaps from one side to another. The 60 minutes well worth looking at and making a decision to leave it alone potentially, unless you're in a long-term swing. Right, okay, that's that. Let's look at the equity markets. Going to start looking at the S&Ps. Well, surprise, surprise, not. Friday, look, it just sort of you just see it just bouncing off of Charlie's bands actually there. Just coming short of the monthly pivot there and bouncing. Solid sort of bar pushing up so far today, and again, as I say, looks quite bullish. Now, just as I'm looking at it on this 4-hourly time frame, just slowing down, has got the weekly pivot below, might just roll back to that sort of level and find some support. So there's a potential support area there, and make it, as I say, if you're looking for buying opportunities, well, that could be one of them. Aside of that, it's been looking reasonably strong, bit extremed up here. Yeah, maybe it is a patience this morning. If it starts rolling over, there's potential targets there, but also potential support areas. Right, okay, that's pretty much that. Let's just bring in my other chart for a moment, because I need charts off of here. Just show you other indices here for a moment. So those that are looking for the other indices, here we go. So other indices, looking at daily from Hong Kong, CSI here. So again, it's showing pretty much a similar thing here. A little bit more bullishness kicking through overnight there. So that just shows the risk on. FTSE this morning already open and running, and that's pushing up again, looking towards the prior highs at this stage, I would suggest. DAX, similar picture, pushing up. It really is risk back on across the board here. We look at I've already looked at the S&Ps. Look at the let's look at the right one, NASDAQ there, pushing back up towards its highs again. So it's a similar picture right away across all of the equity markets there at this stage. So all looking quite positive at this stage. So that's that. Let's have a look at the cryptos. Cryptos had a good week last week. Look at Bitcoin first, and it's pushing through again. PayPal will be accepting crypto, etc. I think this week actually, this week or next week for sure. That's certainly giving it a bit of a bullish move, and it's sitting there above 50,000, back above 50,000 again at this stage. And well, could be heading back up to those highs at some stage, but certainly looking positive. High lows, higher highs still running through on the dailies here. Ethereum just bang into those prior highs again, looking relatively positive. A break above that sort of area again could all be heading back up to their prior highs at this stage, or say at this stage in the near term. Right, that's pretty much it there for Ripple as well. Ripple a bit slower, still court cases hanging over it at the moment, and it's slowing it off that from that point of view. Right, that's pretty much it for me. I wish you a great day's trading for those out there on the YouTube, and talking to you in a moment on the in the trading room. Bye for now.